Nice shooting there, Tex.
We have been testing the Aimpoint ACRO on various platforms for just over a year now to give you the most comprehensive review of the ACRO available. But it hasn't been just any year, no. We tested it throughout 2020, possibly the oddest and most bewildering year in the history of mankind. And it's not over yet. I bet the 2020 series finale is gonna be unreal. So not only has the Aimpoint ACRO survived brutal torture tests from Larry Vickers and Sage Dynamics, it has yet to get COVID, does a little bit of social distancing, refuses to wear a mask, and it has also survived the torture test we are all enduring, which is 2020. The big deal with the Aimpoint ACRO, and what really sets it apart from the crowd, is it is a pistol red dot with an enclosed emitter. That means that the projector of the dot is enclosed in the housing, which is different than, say, the Trijicon RMR, which has an open emitter. I know a few companies are mimicking this now, but Aimpoint was the first from a major player to enclose the emitter in a pistol-sized optic. You may not realize what a big deal this is, but with an open emitter like the RMR, any dirt, dust, mud, snow, blood, anything at all gets on the emitter, you no longer have a functioning red dot. Open emitter sights also function essentially like a bowl collecting debris from wherever you're training, like this photo that was provided by Dr. Amanda Mew Marza on Instagram. You should go check her out. But this photo perfectly represents what can happen to an open emitter sight when training in a dry desert-like environment. Actually, most of you probably won't remember this, but many full-size red dots for rifles used to have open emitters, and fairly quickly people realized it was much better to enclose the entire unit. That's why I was always kind of surprised when pistol dots came out. It seemed like everyone universally accepted the open emitters. The ACRO having a completely enclosed unit won't allow any small debris getting on the emitter to disable the sight, which is a huge improvement over the dominant design that most of the market is going with currently. The ACRO also has a vastly superior mounting system. All the other pistol red dot sights have two tiny screws and a couple pegs to hold them onto the firearm. The screws strip fairly regularly, and just as an overall design standpoint, the system is nowhere near as strong as the dovetail system on the bottom of the ACRO. A dovetail is a system of contrasting angles on the mounting surface area, giving you extremely high tensile strength. Basically, if you have this mounted to a pistol with an adapter plate, the adapter plate will come off of the gun before the ACRO will separate from the adapter plate. I also love how Aimpoint addressed all the ergonomics and functionality on the ACRO. Lightness level adjustments are simple buttons on the left-hand side of the unit. There are 10 settings, the first 4 for night vision, and the last 6 are for normal daylight shooting. The buttons are rubberized, and while they are placed so the shooter can easily make quick adjustments, they are also recessed so they won't unintentionally get adjusted. The sight is also extremely easy to remove from whatever mount with a simple single hex head screw on the right side of the unit. The battery compartment is also on the right side of the unit and easily accessible. You will never need to take the dot off to change the battery. Adjustments to zero the optic are on top for elevation and on the right side of the unit for windage. The ACRO is 1.9 inches long, 1.2 inches wide, 1.2 inches tall, and weighs in at 2.1 ounces. The viewable window is nice and large, and you have plenty of room to quickly pick up the dot. I know it's a little hard to tell from the picture, but the viewable window is about the same as the RMR and a little bit smaller than the SRO. Another thing you'll notice about the ACRO is the glass is just about crystal clear. The ACRO lives up to Aimpoint's quality of ultra clear glass and an extremely crisp dot. To me, the clarity of this optic far outshines any of its immediate competitors. However, this impressive clarity does come at a cost, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. It's probably as good a time as any to thank Optics Planet for sending the ACRO out for review, and remind you all that if you want anything from Optics Planet, from an Aimpoint ACRO to reloading supplies, just about anything they carry, the code Alabama will save you 5% on your order. When you do that, you get the exact gear you want, and it helps the channel out a little bit at the same time. It's a win-win for everybody. The build quality is truly Aimpoint solid through and through. You have an ultra strong aluminum housing, and there are actually 2 lenses in the front of the unit. One lens just basically functions as a sacrificial shield for the internal lens, so should you crack the external lens, you will still have a perfectly functioning optic. I highly recommend you go and check out the torture test that Larry Vickers did to see just how tough the ACRO is. I don't just think the ACRO is great as a pistol optic, I also think it is exceptional on rifles and carbines. Just like many people use the Trijicon RMR on full-size guns, the ACRO will also work great in that capacity as well. It's extremely tough and durable while being ultra compact, light, and having a very small footprint, while still having a window large enough to quickly find your sight picture. Reptilia is making a co-witness mount that we used during the testing. This mount was very well built and worked phenomenally well. We also used the Kinetic Development Group Sidelock Low Mount, available exclusively through Optics Planet. These mounts are extremely cool if you've never seen them. They automatically clamp to your rail, and with the push of a single button, they can be removed. More and more mounts are becoming available every day for the ACRO, making it as adaptable to any given platform as any other red dot available. Well, it's time to talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, the ACRO's battery life. The ACRO uses a somewhat odd CR1225 battery. This battery is very compact and smaller than the more typical CR2032. I'm guessing to keep the size down, Aimpoint couldn't use the 2032. The glass is also extremely clear, which is very nice. However, when optics have a slight blue tint, they can use a less powerful emitter because the blue tint makes it easier to project the dot. Having very clear glass, the ACRO needs a more powerful emitter that uses more battery power. When you combine a less powerful battery with a more powerful projector, let's just say you're not going in a great direction. To be perfectly honest, I went through 1 battery a month for the first 2 months I was testing the ACRO. Now let's dive into that a little bit deeper. Aimpoint claims the ACRO will get a battery life of 1.5 years on setting 6. And I know what you're going to say, those liars. Well, before you go out and get the pitchforks, let me say this. For normal daylight shooting, setting 6 isn't quite enough for me. You need to be on about 8 or 9 on really bright days. And 8 or 9 was about the setting I was using, and I would put the guns back into the safe on those settings. On settings 8 or 9, you will probably only get about a month on a battery. What I started doing was, before I put the ACRO up, I would click down the brightness a few settings. It's easy and convenient to do with the large controls on the side. Doing that, I've been using the 3rd battery in this unit for the final 10 months of the review. If you turn it down when not in use, probably closer to that setting 6, you will tremendously extend the battery life. The ACRO also has this feature: if the battery is getting close to dying, the unit itself will turn it down, trying to let you never be without a dot. Now, do I wish the battery life was longer? Of course I do. And if I had made this video after the first couple months, it would have been a very different video. But getting to use the dot longer, learning to really love the ergonomics, and getting used to the battery situation, this has actually become my favorite red dot, and I will be purchasing more ACRO units. Now, if I were using this on a service pistol, if you were in law enforcement or something along those lines, I would change the battery very often. It's easy, they're cheap, and I keep a bunch on hand. If you were keeping this in your nightstand, you could probably keep it on a level that you would get good battery life, but again, you'd want to keep an eye on it. I will say, with the way the ergonomics are, it is very easy to pick up your gun and click the button to turn up the dot a few settings. Before using this dot, battery life is something I would never sacrifice on. However, everything else on the ACRO is so great, and in my opinion so much better than everything else available, I am willing to make the sacrifice on the battery life. I hope in future iterations of the ACRO, Aimpoint can extend the battery life. I also hope that other companies come up with completely enclosed systems like the ACRO that have longer battery lives. I really feel that sights like the ACRO are the future. Aimpoint has shown everyone what the future looks like. Now it's time to refine and improve on the design, and I can't wait to see what comes next. The ACRO is an exceptional sight, and like I've already said, I'm going to be buying more, and I would highly recommend it. but the battery life is something that each consumer is going to have to look at and decide whether they can live with it or not. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and a huge thanks goes out to Optics Planet for sending out the Aimpoint ACRO. Remember to use that code Alabama. The more you use that code, the more we can make great content like this. It helps us out a lot, and you save some money at the same time. Guys, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. As always, we got some really big reviews coming that you won't want to miss. If you want to know what those reviews are way before they hit the YouTube channel, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Parler. There you can see what's being reviewed in real time. If you want to help support Alabama Arsenal, the best possible way to do that is Patreon. These videos can be surprisingly expensive to make, and every little bit helps and is greatly appreciated. There's also Alabama Arsenal gear available right below the video if you want to go out and represent. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching.